Hey, this is Jake, and we're talking about Soul again. I'm here with Scott, who plays Paticus. Let's talk about like the character development process that you've seen or underwent through the course of the game. That is like this because this is West Marches, right? So like West Marches, I believe is for the most part very pushed towards just kind of like you just go out and you explore and you adventure, and then you go back.
Until people start playing artisan classes.
Well, yeah, then that ruins everything. But that's neither here nor there. That's just a lesson learned, you know. But I guess my major point was in this game though, we delve a lot into like character and who they are and why they're doing what they're doing. And you took Paticus, who was kind of a joke character, and now he's sort of this weird, empathetic, sad sack of what he once was. How do you feel about like character development in games in general? How do you feel about the character development in this sort of weird, very open MMO, style of game?
Well, I mean, I think character development is probably one of the major reasons you play a game. People will role play for various reasons. I role play. One of the major reasons I role play is almost like a character study.
Right.
I really want to delve into the minds of these characters, how they react, how they think, how they feel, especially if you go with that, you are the sum of your experiences, then your experiences are always going to change you.
It seems like a general escapism versus exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have games where you want to be you're a powerful wizard, so you have the escapism in that, but you're also like very emotionally fragile and flawed. It's just you have that kind of dichotomy that I think you don't really see in a lot of role playing games, or at least like probably not in your standard fare of game.
No, I mean, well, this is like I said, a lot of people do games for different things. Like I've seen like people especially play like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. A lot of times it's just like people just want to do like strategic combat and they just completely forgo the role playing
Altogether. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean that's a completely fair way to play the game. Like it's really whatever you want to get out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you do.
And if you just want to be this kick-ass wizard or fighter who just goes to war and gets the girls, I mean, you can play it that way.
Yeah. I think, but you see that a lot with because like especially with a game like this where we have like over 25 different types of players who are playing this game, you see a lot of different type of play styles. Some people don't want to dig into who their character is. Some people just want the escapism, and I'm happy to provide that. But then again, you have people like you or Damon, who are playing these kind of malleable kind of characters that change based on what they're presented with. Like I think having that dichotomy it's very interesting to see within Soul or within this whole campaign. And I'm not sure if we would have that. Usually, like if you're running a game, you kind of set the tone of how you want things done. So you tell people like, all right, this is going to be high fantasy, high adventure. Everyone's going to be on board for that.
Mm-hmm. But
then you tell somebody and like say it's going to be very very light character development.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to be in the mindset for that. But in this, we have character drama in one section, and then we have high fly action adventure in the other. Like it's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different play styles existing within the same world, same setting.
Yeah, and I think it just goes back to what you said. I think people are just looking to get different things out of the game, as well as I mean, really, just honestly, what their character very well is going to end up doing. Like, if you have one character who's just undertaking all these minor quests, fetch quests and stuff for Soul, then I can't imagine them really encountering much that's going to challenge their characters as a person.
Right.
Whereas, on the other hand, you have, like, Paticus, and, like, Felons, who has just been constantly put through the ringer because of the situations that they put themselves in.
Right. And okay, so that's kind of it. Like when you brought back like experiences shaping character, but then again, like I'd say Felons is a very like he's very the player of Felons is very pushed towards like the fun action adventure sort of genre.
Mm-hmm.
So he has been put through the ringer, but that hasn't really shaped who he is, I don't think. I mean, he's definitely made changes, like minor changes, but it hasn't like changed to the sense of like how Paticus has been changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though Palladius, like, he started off as very naive and like his character like didn't know anything about the outside world, but he went from not trusting his faith to plunging himself knee deep into zealotry.
Which is kind of interesting because, like, with everything that I've seen with Paticus, it would probably be more. He would have probably went from someone who believed in Sol to someone who's really beginning to doubt.
A lot of, like, especially within the lore, there's a lot of questions and nothing is completely clear.
Mm-hmm.
There's been contradictions. It's very difficult to tell whether or not like the religion as a whole is. So just having all those questions like placed in front of you, I think like there was a question posed that even though like you're going after these goblets that can help bring back the light from this dark setting, like literally dark setting.
Mm-hmm.
There was questions on whether or not the light was a good thing. Like if the light is a good thing in all its entirety. So the dogged like pursuit of bringing back the light. It seems like it's becoming more and more difficult to justify.
Well, from what I've seen of the game, like, it doesn't seem like the dark itself is evil, more so as it seems like some of the creatures that dwell within it are.
Right.
And and I think one of the things which I could very easily see, like, people might getting confused, is that if they're only encountering those things in the dark that are bad, then of course they're going to think the dark itself is inherently bad.
Right. And I think that's kind of like what's been pushed. But you're seeing evil and atrocities in the light as well.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the new crop of enemies that have been popping up.
Yeah, the corruption in the Church of Sol, which was purged. Then you had characters like Hawk and Nero, who were massive, or like these human supremacist pieces of crap.
I thought Nero was, if we're talking about like character development, like he did a complete 180, kind of, going from like just a regular human scumbag to becoming like a zealot for the church because of what he underwent. Like he's progressed as a character. There was Ian had a character who was a dark priest who believed in this like demon lord.
I was the one who was pulling imps out of his pocket.
Yeah.
Fetch me honey from these monstrous bees.
that was him. So he ended up he ended up like being revealed some sort of shattering truth that like kind of like took him away, like took the player out of the direction he was leading his character.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it was just so like out there. So like I think like you said, it's these experiences that when you encounter the world, it changes who you are. Even Solomon, he started off as very kind and kind of friendly, and Solomon is now kind of a jerk. I wouldn't say a jerk, but he's definitely calloused. Like he's not as like
definitely not as
camaraderie as he once had.
Maybe probably not as forgiving either. Literally choked the friendship out of him.
Chris had a character named Cain who started off as he was kind of a survivalist person that was only out for himself, and by the end he ended up sacrificing himself to save his loved ones. And I think that was a true mark of like showing character progression and development, to where the character died just to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on the character progressions that you've seen within the groups that you've traveled with?
No, because the problem is that there are a lot of characters that I haven't actually had multiple sessions with, like Maurice's character Firos. Like I had the one single adventure with him.
You never want to do that again.
I've never wanted to do that again.
Never want to do that again.
Lando, from what I saw of Damon's character, like I'm honestly not sure like how much he's really changed, because I only had the one short session with him where I teleported straight to the shrine.
Yeah.
And then I teleported straight to the boat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he still seems like this general friendly,
Amicable bard.
yeah, so.
But like once you saw him in a high stress situation, like he became horrified, and that kind of sort of friendly veneer was kind of stripped of him.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing is like when you put a guy by the volcano, you see who his true self is. Like that's kind of represented in this game.
It's a pretty big Joker question right there.
Yeah.
Put people in near death and show who they really are.
We got Tim. What do you think about the character progression of the game so far?
Calypso progressed to death.
From alive to dead?
He's dead.
That's a pretty big progression.
Seems like Gage has changed a little bit. I haven't played with him
In a while. Gage went through some pretty interesting things. I'm not sure how much he's changed, but he's definitely like I don't think his personality's changed, but his
goals maybe.
goals have definitely changed. Yeah.
I think it's been pretty awesome, like to see the not necessarily evolution of characters, because I don't know
Right.
if people have changed that much, but like everybody kind of has a stake in the world, which is why I love the
Format.
the type of game.
Yeah. You saw with like Jakey's character. Jakey's character is very like set on being this sort of like stoic pillar of the church, and now you see him as this dude that can't even questions his own because he thinks he's going nuts.
It's a shame Jake doesn't care about this game. I think he was doing.
Well, we were talking about like before is like some people. It's really you put in what you get out what you put in. So like the more you put in, the more you get out of it.
That reminds me, I got a comment on that one of the posts in the Facebook group.
Which one?
The one where they were talking about Aetheros.
Oh yeah, you should.
Who?
God of Magic.
They were talking about how to free him from the ultimate shard, and I'm like, no, we can't do that.
I don't want to do that. Well,
I mean, we can do that, but I kind of need that heart.
Well, we're probably gonna die today, Scott. So.
Tim, I do not need that negative attitude right now.
And I think the people that really get into it, talking about the level of interest, like you do have some people that are like very
Those filthy casuals.
Yeah, they're casual. You know, it's a periphery interest, and like it's however you want to get out of it. Like Eli's brother, like he's not seeking out games, but if I say something like, "Hey man, you want to join us on Saturday or Sunday?" Like he's not proactive, but if you ask him, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I would like that," and then he jumps in.
Yep.
And he becomes a part of it. So like some people you have to kind of like coax and push and then get them into this character. Some people don't have a character set up when they make their guy, and then it sort of develops over the course of the game. So Josh's character was a bard. He didn't really have any concept for his character, but then as time went on, he became more and more of a kind of like an ostentatious prick. And you find out that the reason he's like that is because of his difficulties with his family, and then it got really interesting. You're like, okay, and this was just kind of revealed slowly as I think he was coming up with his character.
Kind of a little bit like you're reading a book where it's just like you're just dropped in following this character. You have no idea who he is, but then you just gradually find out as the story progresses.
I think it's pretty interesting. Characters like Tepartos, or you have characters that are almost kind of cartoonish in a way. Like, and I don't mean cartoonish like in a negative light. I mean it's just like they're interesting, like characters, but like you create them as sort of like either like sort of a joke or humorous bend to them. They're gonna be, or like Ted has a character named Chip, who's just basically your stereotypical like barbarian, like "Grah!" like that kind of guy. Like he's not gonna change. Like he's always gonna be like this crazy barbarian dude.
Yep.
And it's the same with Tepartos. Like Tepartos is always going to be this jovial, like fun-loving fighter guy.
He and Thrashcore always lifting in their gym.
That was another thing. His Thrashcore's changed. He started off as sort of like very amoral, like I'm in this for myself. But he went out and saved Golem from he was willing to risk his life to save Golem. So.
Yep.
I think so. I thought that was pretty cool.
Gotta say, Atticus missed that quest.
Yeah.
Would have liked to have been there to save Gome.
It was a whole underwater adventure. It was a ton of fun. And it ended really bad. Or really cool. Like, it was interesting. It's going to make things interesting, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, they saved Gome.
Yep.
Mostly.
Yeah. And resurrected something that should have been sleeping.
They didn't, like, resurrect Jormungandr, did they?
More like Jormungandr's dad, like, or not Loki. Like,
Meanwhile, in Savarese.
yeah.
So wait, Jormungandr's dad? So is this like supernatural now? We see you stopped the world serpent, but now you have the bigger world serpent.
Yeah, God level serpent. I don't know. We were talking about how, like, even like the city of Savarese, you know, like Damon's like jokey bard character is now
Was fun. Are you recording right now?
yeah.
Was fundamentally changed.
Yeah, from all the horror that he witnessed in Savarese.
I don't know how he is now, but he was
Covered in blood and horrified and near partially dead.
I mean, literally inches from death.
Yeah.
What if as far as we know, he could be dead. Like the teleportation,
Yeah.
the teleportation could have killed him.
No, I don't think teleportation would have killed him. I've
No.
used this.
Anything could have killed him.
You could have teleported him like onto a spike or something.
You
like
send
that.
him to some demon's
No,
couch.
I figured out.
in some like alternate soul.
He's in your alleyway being
That's
gnawed by rats.
He couldn't have fought him off.
Oh, yeah.
They would have just like inched closer. He would like,
Oh.
they eat him while he's still living.
You teleport him 15 feet above the ground and he just falls and just dies. There's no...
Oh, now I feel bad.
But you know, there are a lot of characters that have died and pursuing goals or aspects of character.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and that's another thing about this game or the setting is like survival is never guaranteed.
I think it makes the characters mean more.
Yeah,
Like in their achievements. I really do. I think that
you have this very Game of Thrones sort of feel where like you get invested to these characters, but they might suffer an anticlimactic death.
Yeah.
Like they just might. This guy who spent his life trying to save Soul, might just get stabbed in the alleyway and die. Like it's a possibility. So.
it's the beauty and the horror of this setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about people taking their lumps and being fundamentally changed. I think Scott's probably suffered some of the worst shit in the game. Just for Paticus has suffered some of the worst maladies in the game.
You see this, like, you're talking about joke characters. Like, I was originally just this fat elf who used food as a coping mechanism. Now he's just this broken, depressed.
Well, we were talking about like cartoon characters, like having a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Paticus was originally, I think he was a cartoon character.
A little bit, yeah.
He's just a fat, jovial elf who liked eating food, and that's all he was
He
about.
doesn't like anything.
Now food, when he eats food, it tastes like ash, and he...
Not food.
Literally, the dude has literally nothing to live for anymore.
Eli did his session with...
I literally don't know what happened.
Yeah. He did his session, so that's resolved. One way or another.
I'm going to suspect we're going to find out the result of that today.
Yeah. It's probably not good.
Yeah.
Considering every time she would attack, it was always roll last breath, I can't imagine that ending well for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but...
Well, they had an interesting set of skills. He had an interesting...
He had a very particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Skills that were a nightmare for people like her.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, this is good. His I'll just say that it ended very interestingly. Like it's gonna be weird. So we'll start it off like there. Has there been anyone that you've noticed like change, Tim, like progressed or went from being one person to a totally different person?
Well, I heard you mention Nero to Azazel.
Yeah.
He's pretty much dead now. Pretty much lost him.
Yeah. I figure, but like once a lot of the like we started like having a drop off on players, and you can also see the drop off in activity in the forum once I decided to slow things down and get once I'm laid off, like it's gonna be I'm gonna have so much more free time.
Go back to going ham again.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go ham again. I'm thinking about after this, we're probably gonna take a break till July, and then we'll reopen it up once I'm laid off.
Okay. Well, I think people, if they know that. I think something that really worked well was the multiple game master.
Yeah, I think so too.
That was really cool. Like when there'd be 2 sessions going on at the same time.
Yeah, within the same world. That was cool.
That independently interact with the world, but also affect each other.
I also like when your characters like came across each other while you were sailing towards Savarese.
Weren't they coming back from the demon fight?
Yeah, from fighting demons. So.
The only one problem I've ever found with the multiple GMs is that like if you have one GM who, because I've noticed a lot of GMs when you kind of pass things off to a co-DM, they don't necessarily get the themes and what you're going for, which can lead to some continuity issues. Yeah, and that's something I ran into. But I think the GMs I had were really good. It's just that the hardest part is keeping continuity.
Right.
And you want to be able to keep continuity. And like I didn't want to oversaturate the world with big bad evil threats.
Right.
You know, like when I first created this, I wanted it to be mostly about exploration and discovering the world around you, and then maybe you'll come across this bigger evil or threat. But like, and I was guilty of it too because I'm coming in with the ultimate chart, and you got these drow and all this stuff, and then you got the gnolls, and so it's definitely not just like the co-GMs, it's myself as well, and it's just a learning experience. You learn as you go.
I really enjoyed that part where like somebody would introduce something. I understand it can add complexity, but like basically it came back to town in the form of rumors.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like even if the continuity of like the description of something is off, if you're hearing about it second or third hand, and then you see it, you're like, oh, it doesn't look exactly like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And another thing where players describe, like the setting.
Right.
I think that adds a lot. So it's like it feels organic.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you might hear something from your friend, and then when you experience it yourself,
it's different.
In real life, it's different.
Yeah, it's totally different. How do you prefer seeing like? Because like there have been a lot of moments in the game where like you travel with someone new. I think you've played probably with some. Tim has played with the most like variety of diversity of player, and then there'll be moments where you'll be traveling, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, that's the blah blah blah. That I've come across this in my travels, and then you're like, and like I said in the last, because I did another one of these. In this last episode, I was talking about how characters feel treaded. Like the people, like they each have their own experiences and collections. To go back with what Scott said, that kind of shape who they are.
Right.
So when they come across something, they're like, "Yeah, I've seen this. I've done this. I know where we are." How do you feel about that versus like someone posting something in the forum, like learning it in game versus learning it through the forum?
I like how they work together because sometimes you hear about something in the forum, and then you play with a player or a character that had seen it.
Yeah.
Like early on, the Titan was a big one.
Yeah.
So like people would walk by and this Titan was visible and it was changing and rebuilding itself. Then it's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I believe I walked past it a few times.
Right.
It was just like, oh, cool. And then the next time I went by, it was gone.
Gone. We're like
okay, like
yeah.
Where did it go? What does it mean? And we still don't know.
Yeah.
I like that. Again, it's like the organic.
Yeah.
It gives life to the characters and the events that are going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're playing in a closed game where it's you, the GM, and then 3 players, but it's always the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, okay, well, this happened in the world. Now, if something happened in the world, we hear about it.
Yeah.
People come into the store and talk about it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, like when they killed all the goblins up north.
Yeah. That was yeah. Oh my god.
But that was a very, like.
Some people were like legitimately upset. That, and I like that. Like I think that's cool, because it shows that people were invested. They're like, what the hell, man?
Like, why would you do that? Like
they were peaceful. Like
it made those evil characters that much more evil because there was stock in these actual NPCs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we went up there and like made friends with them.
Yeah.
And then we go back. We're going to get them. Come to Soul, and they've been slaughtered.
Yeah, you partied with them. Like you
Yeah.
literally partied with them. They gave you like tokens of friendship and
Yeah,
shit like that.
and then they were just
They're
murdered.
dead. That was probably like out of everything that's happened in this game, I think that was the most evil thing that's happened. And
It was bad.
yeah, that was definitely the most evil thing. It was brutal.
But it felt real, you know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
when real world events happen that, have an emotional
Impact.
weight to them. Yeah, like you can't synthesize that without,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like we played a 2-hour session several weeks before that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't do that without actually doing it.
Right. Exactly. That's you're becoming like, because it's a first-hand experience, you become more emotionally invested. Even people that didn't like the guy. I remember because when I was running the session, Jakey was closing up the store, and he walked by the table, and then when he heard what was going on, his face, like, he's just like, "What?
I know what you're doing."
Yeah, he's like, "No." That's so funny.
And it gives weight to the characters too, because I mean, people are like, "Well, what's Palladius gonna say?" Or like, "What's he gonna do?" Because like, I was a strong advocate for the goblins.
Right.
Same thing when we tried our Game of Thrones intrigue, and it backfired because of Ian.
I'm gonna have an episode where we talk about the politics of Soul, because I think that's been a heavy thing in this, and I think like some people like take it really seriously, like
Palladius.
some people take it really seriously, and some people take it, like there's like a passing interest or something like that.
Yeah, like Paticus, when we were talking about the set record and their mushrooms, like, oh, mushrooms, more food, let's bring them in.
Yeah. Those were the glory days.
Yep. Now it's just, who cares?
Yeah. Oh, mushrooms, cool. Thanks, guys, for joining. Any listeners, appreciate you following through with us. This is sort of, like I said, this is sort of going to be like kind of like a dev diary where we talk about kind of like what we've learned or how to relate this type of game to West Marches and or regular role-playing games, and what I've learned from the experience of this. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.